Okay, good afternoon. The meeting of the Board of Health will come to order today, Friday, February 10th at 12:01 p.m. Let's start with roll call.
Arlette Preston,
Here.
Avish Nagpal,
Here.
Bernie Dardis,
Here.
Grant Severson,
Here.
Jamie Steig,
Here.
Kayla Nelson,
Here.
Lynn Telford,
Here.
Namel Dodd,
Here. Stay.
Tony Grimberg. Roll call is completed.
Thank you. We will do a quick member intro since this is a new board, and I think we'll just start over here on my left with Dr. Severson. Name, role in the community.
Hi, my name is Grant Severson. I'm a pediatric rheumatologist at Sanford Health in Fargo here. And I'm also involved in the North Dakota American Academy of Pediatrics in other ways. So
And new to the board.
I'm new to the board, yes.
Bernie Dardis, Mayor of West Fargo.
Yamalde, Fargo School Boards, and MPH, Master of Public Health.
And I'm Lynn Telford, and this is my 4th year serving on the Board of Health.
I'm Kayla Nelson. This is my 3rd year on the Board of Health.
Arlette Preston, City Commission, and I've been on this for about 2.5 years now.
Avish Nagpal, infectious disease physician at Sanford for the last 10 years and new to the board.
Jamie Stagg, pharmacist, new to the board.
Okay, thank you. One addition to the agenda will be approval of the agenda, so I will call for motions to approve the agenda or any changes recommended.
So move.
I'll second, and then I would ask that a change be made here, that we move the, and I'm not seeing it right now.
Number 8.
Number 8? There we go. Move number 8 up to immediately after the minutes approval. Just because, and let me give a little explanation there. This is a whole new board. We all had to reapply. And Lynn was vice chair in the last board, but technically, we have no chair at this point. So if we could take care of that business first, that would be great.
Following the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Arlette? Following the approval of the minutes from December?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the change of moving the election officers to after the minutes.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. The minutes were sent, the draft of the secretary's minutes has been sent to you to review for those who were in attendance at the December meeting. I believe that is how we will vote to approve the minutes. So are there any corrections recommended to the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes approved. So we will move into election of officers so that we can move forward with a chair and a vice chair. So I will open up the table for motion for nomination for chair of the Board of Health.
I'd like to nominate Lynn Telford for chair.
And I'll second that. And I'll just say Lynn was great as a vice chair, so.
Any other nominations?
I move nomination cease. We cast a unanimous ballot.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Now we'll entertain a motion for a nomination for vice chair.
So I would make a motion to nominate Kayla Nelson. She's been on the board for a number of years and is acting member or active member in the medical community. So I would
I'll
nominate her.
And I will second that.
Any other nominations?
I would move for unanimous approval for Kayla Nelson to be vice chair.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We did our introductions and welcomed the new members to our Let's discussion. We started with a new board as of 2023. So we will get into some orientation later, but we will move on to the agenda to the Fargo Cass Public Health Building Rehab Update with Melissa.
Okay, all right. Hello, welcome. On December 28th, we had a water pipe burst in the nursing suite overnight. The water flooded that entire area into the hallway, the admin suite, 2 conference rooms, the health promotion and environmental suite, plus 3 supply rooms. This is roughly a quarter of our building. There was about 2 inches of water standing in the majority of the nursing suite. Facilities maintenance started the cleanup at 6 o'clock in the morning. Surf Pro arrived around 8:30. The IS department helped move and set up all the staff computers and phone equipment. Staff that were there that day helped with moving and cleaning. About 40 staff have been relocated to different areas of our building. 20 cubicles were taken down. Sheetrock was removed 2 feet up on the outside wall of the building. All the carpet has been removed, and the cabinets that were on the floor are being replaced. Original estimate of damage is around $200,000. The timeline is yet to be established, but no work can begin until contract is in place. The first week or so was a big adjustment for many of our staff, as you can imagine, but everyone pitched in where they could, and I think everyone has settled into their new temporary digs. We will be glad when everything is patched up and staff can return to their home. Thank you.
Well, sorry to hear that happened. Those water disasters are never easy to correct. We will do a review of the orientation packet, and just note that Desi is not here today, but she does have a message she would like to pass on to the board. And so I will hand it over to Lori for that update and review of the orientation packet.
Hi. The blue packets that are at your desk are what we're referring to in this message by Desi. Good afternoon, Board of Health members. I'm so sorry I had to miss today's meeting. It is so exciting to have such a qualified board to start the new year of advisement for Fargo Cass Public Health. Due to the quick turnaround of new board appointments and our first meeting, we are doing a somewhat hybrid orientation, so we can cover important orientation topics, but also have time dedicated to public health topics. You have all been given an orientation packet today that contains resources to help you be successful in your role on the Board of Health. For department-specific information, your packet contains material on our mission, vision, and core values, along with an organizational chart and a listing of our various departments and services we provide. This will hopefully give you an overview of our structure and our offerings. If any of you are interested in further details, we'd be happy to set up an individual meeting at your convenience for further discussions. Also in your packet is a listing and contact for all board members, along with a proposed meeting schedule for 2023, which we will vote on later at the end of the meeting today. The remainder of the resources are board-specific information on responsibilities, bylaws, open meetings, and Robert rules. We also have the benefit of having speakers with us today to present 2 orientation topics for a deeper dive. I hope you find this information helpful. And again, thank you for your willingness to serve, and feel free to reach out for any further informational needs. Looking forward to working with you all, Desi Fleming.
Okay, and I believe we'll move on to some orientation topics from Ian, our city attorney.
Welcome. So my name is Ian McLean. I'm an assistant city attorney for the city of Fargo. I'm here today to provide just a short primer on North Dakota open meeting and open record law. So it can really be boiled down to 3 words at its simplest form. It is open. So in North Dakota, almost every record and every meeting is open. So that's where we always start. It is open. North Dakota has some of the broadest sunshine laws, as they call them, of any state in the nation. So the first question then becomes is, what is a record? And the Attorney General defines it as, a record includes all recorded information, regardless of physical form, that has a connection with how public funds are spent or with the public entity's performance of its governmental functions or its public business, regardless of format and location. So that's a mouthful. So what is a record in information? So what that means is, what is an actual record? It's, if you're taking notes of this meeting today, that is an open record that somebody could request. It is emails, it is text messages between you and anybody could be an open record if you're talking about substantive business. It could be photos, it could be recordings, it could be video. Basically anything could be a record except for your own mental impressions. It can't take it out of your brain, but if you take it out of your brain, you put it anywhere, that could be an open record in North Dakota. So it has to be connected to public business. So if you're texting your spouse about picking up kids, that's obviously not an open record. Scheduling is probably not an open record. But if you're talking about the substantive business of this board, it is an open record. And it doesn't matter where you have it stored. If it's on a personal cell phone, a work cell phone, your work computer, your home computer, your iPad, it is still open and the public has a right to it. So that's the general about open records. Now there are exceptions, and there is some information that is confidential, but for your purposes, you should just believe that everything is open. And then if there is a request, the city will reach out to you saying, do you have any records that are responsive to this? We would then ask that you give the city attorney's office in communications of those records, and we will review the records. And if they are exempt or confidential, they will not be turned over, or they will be redacted. But for your purposes, it's most important thing you hear today is just don't delete things, and please keep them and turn them over if requested. So now I'll turn to open meetings, and again, it's probably open is the general rule. So meetings is defined as any gathering of a quorum of the members of the governing body of the public entity regarding public business, and includes committees and subcommittees, informal gatherings or work sessions, and discussions where a quorum of members are participating by phone or other electronic communication. So it doesn't matter if it's a telephone call, a Zoom call, or you're actually here in person. Even if 5 of you went to lunch and you just happen to talk about the business of this board, that would be an open meeting. We would be in violation if we did not provide notice. So if there's a quorum of you anywhere, you should not be talking about business unless it's been noticed. That would be the general rule. To get more into the specifics, I don't think it would happen with this board, but even if there's not a quorum and you're sort of going around trying to get a consensus sort of behind the scenes, that would also be a violation of the open meetings law. So anytime you're talking about public business of this board, try to make sure it is in a publicly noticed meeting. So the guiding principle is to conduct all public business in public. And it will always be noticed that we have minute takers here. It's not for you guys to worry about, but just make sure if you're talking about public business, it's done in a properly noticed meeting. Happy to answer any questions. If you ever have any questions, please reach out to Desi or myself. We'll be happy and we'll get right back to you with the answers.
Questions from board members? Commissioner Preston?
So Ian, could you just expound a little bit? Because I think so oftentimes this scares people into not even being able to talk to each other about anything related to that particular board. Can you just talk that through a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So the real worry is if there's a quorum. So if there's 5 or more of you. So if Commissioner Preston and the mayor just happen to be, they see each other, it doesn't mean they can't talk about the board. They certainly can. It's just, I wouldn't want them talking about, there's some big motion that's coming up at the next meeting, and Commissioner Preston, I wouldn't want her to talk to all 8 of you individually to come up with a consensus prior to the meeting. So it's an extreme example. Otherwise, if there's not a quorum, you're certainly free to talk about the business of this board if there's not a quorum, but it's not for consensus building. So don't be scared to talk to one another outside of this meeting.
And I've heard a number of people express that fear. So, yeah, it's not the fear of God. It's just if there's a quorum, then you just need to be not talking about it.
Yeah, if 5 of you are anywhere, you should not be talking about this Board of Health. Is essentially would be the rule. Any other questions? Well, welcome, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, the next order of business is some orientation from the city communications team.
Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this board meeting. As Ian was just saying, when you hear from us in the communication department, it's going to be for a handful of issues, and one of them will be just as Ian was saying. If we're processing requests for open records, email, text messages, handouts, notes, it's going to be one of us on the comms team that'll be reaching out to you. And as you just heard, it's nothing to be concerned about, to be worried about. It's just something to be aware of. So we don't want our first conversation to be, as you remember, these are open records, and you look at me and it's like we've never talked about that before. So it's important that we have that conversation. So what we've been asked today is just to kind of briefly go through for us on the comms team a little bit about who we are, the resources that we have, and how we work very closely with your information officer at Fargo-Cass Public Health. Oops. So I'm just going to kind of these are the individuals in the communication team that we have that are located here at City Hall. So I'm not going to go through each of them, but you can kind of see the various roles. We have videographers, graphic designers, people that are processing open record requests, media relations, et cetera. I will tell you, this team, just like the team that you have at Fargo-Cass Public Health, are a team that works extremely hard. We're not people that are in our offices every day just at our desks. We are out in the field working with your colleagues at Fargo-Cass and all of the different departments at the City of Fargo. To kind of break down our different divisions and what we kind of do. So the first one is obviously where you are today. So to be able to be broadcasting meetings, not only in the commission chambers, but around the community, we have a couple of individuals that are overseeing things in broadcast. And then our next one is, anything videography related, graphic design, to really house as many of those services for creative inside the organization is important for us. So that look and feel, we can also have open and honest conversations with our staff of what is working and what's not across the organization. Number 3, obviously hugely important now more than ever, is community engagement. So what information are we placing on social media? We very much value members of the media, which will be our next division that I speak of next, but the way that we engage with our community is something important. And with the team over at Fargo-Cass Public Health and Community and Communications and Governmental Affairs, it used to be that we would post the same thing on social that we sent out on a news release. We are gaining much more intelligence and actionable items by listening on social media. What are people telling us? What are the questions that they're posing to us on social or on other platforms through emails? What are they telling us about what we're doing well and what we're not doing well? And so we have a couple of individuals on the team that are focused on engaging with the community. And then our last one, obviously, critically important, is what are we doing with media relations? So media relations, media monitoring, and news releases. We do really carefully monitor the stories that are appearing before our organization or about our organization in the media. And they're not all going to be great, and sometimes that happens. But when things are incorrect, we are very hands-on of reaching out to members of the media and asking for corrections and doing those kind of things. So a couple of things to be keeping in mind about our team. We are not trained in healthcare. We are trained in communications, and we love to say this when we make different presentations throughout the organization. That is our biggest asset, and it's also our biggest challenge. So working with a great team at Health, especially, a lot of the times in the past 2.5 years, they would have to explain things to us in a way they would have to explain things to someone in the community because we're not trained in it. And so our biggest asset that we can offer this Board of Health and Fargo-Cass is we're kind of thinking as an outsider, but also being an insider. How can we explain very complex topics in 2 minutes or even a half a minute? Because that is what our people are consuming at this time. So like I said, that is our biggest asset, but it also is a big challenge. And people say, in a nutshell, what are you here to do? And it really is to advance the interests of the organization and the employees within it, to really be serving as an advocate on all of your behalf and Fargo-Cass and the City of Fargo, and to really be building and fostering a really strong brand. When I say brand, it doesn't always have to look nice, but it has to be very well established, and we have to have trust. I think we saw in the last 3 years with COVID that trust is the most important asset that we have, and it's really hard to gain, and it's really easy to lose. And it's one of our most important things that we do every day on the comms team, is trying to be building that brand and building that trust. And really, the other thing we're trying to do is really tell those behind the scenes stories of Fargo-Cass Public Health. Many people doing amazing work, and it's our job to tell their story, working with the team at Health. I'm going to turn this over to Peter on my team for kind of give you an idea of a couple of the hands-on examples in graphic design and videography that we worked on with Fargo Cast.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for letting us give this presentation today. You kind of led right into what I was about to start saying about branded content and telling stories. That's exactly what we do. My role as a multimedia producer, we've created a bunch of different video projects for Fargo Cast Public Health. Some of those examples, last year we did some things with National Public Health Week. We interviewed 5 different people who work throughout Fargo Cast Public Health and told their stories and how they impact the community. We also did something with a partnership with the 463 Foundation and the Fargo Police Department on suicide and mental health awareness as a PSA type of stories. Ryan, who's back in the broadcast booth back there, he just a couple months ago was filming some all-staff meetings. So some simple things just like that as well. And then we're also been working with Cass Clay Food Partners, which is a partner with Fargo Cast Public Health as well, doing some video content for them, talking about different pollinators, farmers markets, gleaning, basically who they are. Those are some of our video examples. Graphic design, Ben, he's a rock star. He puts together a ton of cool projects, especially for public health. Some of those things, it could be as simple as just stationery that you would use every single day. When it was COVID, he created a bunch of posters and flyers and things that were put up all over the city. He's created media backdrops. When it comes to bigger things, he created all the graphics for Vax Up North Dakota campaigns. He created over 30 plus billboards and posters and logos and all the signage that you saw around town for Vax Up. He also did stuff for No Feeling Is Final campaign. Created that logo and stickers and t-shirts and all that. So our team does quite a bit, and we're happy to help any way we can.
Thank you, Peter. And so the really interesting story is how the main team at the city interacts with the team at Fargo Cast Public Health. So Justin is quickly approaching me behind. That means time for him to speak. He's going to talk about how that partnership works between the main comms team at the city and the communications team you have at Fargo Cast.
Thank you, Greg. Welcome to our new members. Good to see you. For our veterans, it's good to have you guys all here today. Like Greg said, we were working through COVID, and we saw opportunities to develop a bit of a liaison system between the city and Fargo Cast. There were times that we had sort of our own policies or procedures that we were working on, and it was difficult to always communicate with. So Holly is our PIO. Oh, by the way, I should introduce myself. I'm sorry. I'm Justin Bohr. I'm the public health analyst over at Fargo Cast. So us together, we became the Fargo Cast's unofficial comms team, and we've been working through updating current processes and procedures that we have, and then working through this liaison system with the city to really elevate what we've put out before and improve our image and brand integrity and logo. So we want to make sure that we're branding things properly. They've been absolutely wonderful in being patient with us at times. I know that I can be a little overbearing at times. So Greg will tell you that privately, probably. So it's been great, and Holly's a very vital part of the team, so I will let her speak.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Holly Scott. I'm the Public Information Officer, or PIO would be the acronym for my title. Pleased to be here today to share with you. I'll try to not overwhelm you with kind of the day-to-day tasks. We wanted to give you more of kind of a large-scale view of what communications is responsible for. One of the things that I really appreciate and value about my current role is that I get to kind of have my hands in and my eyes on many different communication products throughout the entire organization. So it's really fun for Justin. Sometimes it's just me, more often it's Justin and I kind of working together to help maybe development of promotional videos or campaign materials that might be for our family planning program, or perhaps it's for our tobacco prevention program.
It's just a fun challenge.
I'm just going to keep talking. Our role when we're reviewing that content is really to kind of look at it with a critical eye, but I don't use the word critical in the sense that we're criticizing the communication. What our role is really to provide support for the team that's developing the materials, but also to provide feedback and suggestions in case there's any way that that message, that material can be improved, or, you know, how can we look at this in a different way so that we're better communicating to our intended audiences. A large part of what we do, and we often bring Lori in to help with that, is to maintain the integrity of our brand, which is the FargoCast Public Health logo. It might seem like kind of a small thing, you know, if you're not familiar with the world of communications, but brand integrity is really, really critical because it's the way that people who view your materials, it's how they recognize you. And so it's really important for us to be always making sure that our logo is displayed properly, it's not crowded, it's not in a different color, that all of the elements are really intact, so that we continue to represent public health in the best way possible. We work very, very closely with Dr. Newman. You probably have received some emails from me, but when there are new health officer reports, we work closely to communicate that information with a number of stakeholders in the community. It's my responsibility to post those reports to a particular page on our website. I'm largely involved in development and pushing out of news releases. So if you've ever seen my name on a news release, that's a large part of what I'm responsible for. I will tell you, I feel very fortunate in my role that I don't have to write all of the news releases. We have a really smooth process internally where our content experts actually draft the material for the news releases, and then it's my role to just kind of put the finishing touches on. Last but certainly not least, website maintenance. We have well over 150 of our own unique pages on FargoCastPublicHealth.com. So again, I work with staff for any updates that need to be done. I get to help in creation of new pages if we have a new program or something new that we need to promote. So that's a really, really fun part of my role as well. I thought we would just walk you through a little bit of our social media presence. If you are on social media, but if you don't follow us, I would ask that you please do that so that you can just remain informed about the different messages that we're communicating. But you can see we've got just over 8,600 followers across our platforms. Some of the content, just wanted to share a couple of slides here. We do post news release content to our social media pages as well as to our website. Peter referenced videos that we did last year for National Public Health Week. We also sometimes will solicit quotes from staff, you know, tell us what you love about your job. So that would be the middle slide there. One of our key staff members, Robin, she works in our harm reduction division. She does Narcan trainings. And so Robin does a great job of thanking the organizations that have her in to do the Narcan training. Sometimes our social content is just about education. So we try really hard to recognize different awareness days, events, e-months that have to do with public health. Our tobacco prevention team has regular content. In the months leading up to school starting, we often will promote and talk about the importance of childhood immunizations and just, you know, advertise any vaccine clinics that we have coming up. You can see Robin there again with Mayor and Commissioner Kolpak, also with Melissa Markegard. We have a lot of staff who work really hard to build partnerships and collaborate and attend events out in the community. So we try to recognize that on our social platforms as well, just so that our audience knows that we do a lot of important work within the walls of our buildings, but we also have a vested interest in being out in the community. Our WIC program, they're fortunate to be able to use social content from the National WIC office, and so we just use messages to promote. I think this was talking about the importance of beans. So again, if you don't follow us, we would appreciate it if you did. I'm gonna bring Greg back up now to just chat a little bit about what social media looks like kind of with your current role.
Thank you, Holly. So she got to go through some of the fun things we get to do on social. I'll get to go through the not fun things. When something that's really important, you are responsible for what you post. We give this talk many times, and so I think many of you are aware of this, but if we don't say it, we didn't say it. So when you share your opinions, they're not the official opinion of Fargo Cass Public Health, the Board of Health, or our organization here at the city. That's really important. People see you in these roles. They see you representing the community in these roles. And so when your words or your text are shared, they carry a lot of weight. Know that that is an incredible honor that you've earned, and it's also incredibly watched. And so you post something, especially those of us that are employees at the city, we have a work phone and we have our own personal phone. Doing very intentionally, so we're not making comments accidentally on work accounts when we want them on our personal accounts. I will tell you from where I stand and what we've seen, we'd encourage not to post anything that could be perceived in negative ways on social. I know that's easy to say that, but just to be cautious of that. It's easy to post and then get rid of it a minute or two later. I guarantee you it's still out there. People have record of it. As soon as it's posted, it's there. Even if you edit it, there are software programs that will show every iteration of your post. Just please be aware of that. Obviously, again, members of the media will seek out and ask you questions of your comments on social media. It's pretty routine to see members engaging with members of the community, and those engagements can even end up on social media where a news reporter will say, hey, I saw a conversation didn't go well with this person, and now they're reporting that they can't make comments to you anymore. Did you take them off so they can't have access to your page anymore? Those kind of things, when you're commenting from a platform of this, aren't legal. If you decide to use your social media channels as avenues to make comments of your work on the Board of Health, you aren't allowed to do that. People then need to be able to engage with you on those platforms. So working, with Holly, and she will work with our team if you have questions on how to do that, because we're not discouraging any movement. If you want to, there's easy ways that we can tell you just to kind of be working through those as you work on your work on the board. And then, of course, again, anything you post online can and will be captured and republished by anyone, including members of the media. And there's been numerous examples in our organization that has happened just in the last year alone. Turn this back over to Holly for some media training.
All right, thank you. So that was a really nice transition into working with members of the media. We rely heavily on our partners in the media to help us get information out to the community. Typically that's in the form of a news release, and then news releases might result in follow-up interviews. So I just wanted to walk you through a little bit the system that we use internally at Fargo Cass Public Health. Should we find ourselves in a spot where maybe a member of the media is interested in visiting with Board of Health. So it's my job to process media requests. Basically what that means is a member of the media can come to me and say, Holly, we're really interested in talking about backyard chickens. That actually has been a really kind of hot topic in the community ever since the Cascade Food Partners produced the video. So then it's my job to just dig a little bit deeper, find out what information that journalist or reporter is interested in, make sure that the staff that we have internally is the content expert to talk about that. If not, maybe we need to refer to someone else. We do ask members of the media to share with us questions and topics ahead of time for an interview. If you ever have interviewed with a member of the media, it's not a pleasant experience to be caught off guard. And so we want whoever is visiting with the media on behalf of public health to feel like they're well prepared and well informed. Part of what I actually really enjoy doing is helping people prepare ahead of time for an interview. So we talk through, what does it sound like when you're going to answer this particular question? If a member of the media might ask a question that it wasn't in your wheelhouse, you don't have the statistics in front of you, what does that sound like when you say, I don't have the answer to your question? So I think to help people get more comfortable talking with the media, we do invest a lot of time into just doing a little bit of practice so that it can be a good experience for everyone. Okay, I think this is the final transition we're going to make, but I'm going to turn it back to Greg.
Actually, it's going to be me, Peter. So,
Thank you.
Next we want to just talk about some media interview tips. So if you are being interviewed on camera, these are some of the things just keep in mind. So the first thing is come in with key messages. You'll work with Holly or someone on that team about those key messages, and you can just keep those in the back of your mind as you're answering questions. You can always come back to those messages in your answers. Holly made reference to if you don't know an answer to the question, she's going to do their best to prepare you as much as possible for those media interviews. But if there's still an answer or there's a question that they ask that you don't know, be honest. We don't want to have speculation. Try and avoid that as much as possible. So honesty is the best policy in that, and you can always follow up afterwards. If a reporter begins a question with an inaccurate statement, it's okay to correct that statement, obviously in a respectful and professional manner, as all of you guys would. Also, during an interview, as soon as someone walks in, that's when the interview begins. So if you have something that you say that's accidental or unplanned or off the cuff thoughts or comments, those are likely going to be utilized in the media's story. And just answer questions like you would in any professional conversation. The media, like we mentioned in the last slide, they are our partners, and they do a great job of helping us share our messages. So we giving you these tips, but keep that in the back of your mind too. They are our partners. So I'll go to the next slide. So some of those talking points, some of those key messages that I mentioned, to have 3 things in the back of your mind, like Holly and their team are going to work with you on that. But some of those things, we want to make sure that those statements are short, easy to understand, and reinforce your key messages. There's a lot of things with public health. The general public it's kind of complex information. So any way that you can simplify that message and make it easily digestible for someone who doesn't have knowledge on the topic is really helpful. Try and think of memorable statements that make your audience visualize what you're talking about. So try and keep some of that jargon out of your statements. That'll help communicate your message clearly. Be sure to answer the questions as best as you can. You can always, if you're kind of rambling on, you can always go back to those talking points and those 3 main messages. When you're working with the media, there's some of these things that you can control. You can try and control as much as you can. So you can control how much you go back to your main point, what you're saying, how you say it, how it comes across, your integrity, your emotions, and whether or not you stay on topic. Those are the things that you can control. But some of the things that you cannot control are some of the questions that the reporter might ask on the part of the interview that they actually use in their story. However, somebody might decide to spin if you're misquoted, or if there's any reporter bias in it. So, anything else?
Good on that.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Something else to be considered, as Peter mentioned, but I'm going to reiterate it. Anything off the record is technically legally not off the record. So you may be working with a reporter, they may say it's off the record. There is no legal obligation for them to have it off the record. If they had their phone and they were recording it, it's a record that they can use those quotes. So just be really cognizant of that. So this is some information that we just kind of wanted to share with you, so you know, as our employees, what are some of those standards that we are expected to follow. While all of you aren't employees of the organization, we do consider you part of the overall team. And so a lot of these things we hope then that you'll find value in as well. So as we teach all of our employees that we are expected and required to conduct ourselves in a manner consistent with the organization. As soon as you are hired as an employee at the City of Fargo, there is a higher expectation. You know that the members of the public are placing their trust in you, and that's an incredible honor, but it does carry a lot of weight. We must be particularly careful to be preventing the inadvertent disclosure of any confidential information. Hugely important in healthcare. You all understand that even better than we do, but that's at the charge that we hold very dear. Yes, our emails are open records and our text messages, but that private information about a resident, or in this case, any patient, is not open. So we're very careful with that. We try and teach our employees to really be honest and accurate, when posting information about news. And if you make a mistake, try to correct it. it as quickly as possible, right? Mistakes happen, and if we own up to it and we're honest about it, it's another goal in the comms team. This organization and we ourselves are far from perfect, and if we can own that and say how we've learned and how we've evolved our operations, it holds incredible value for the community. And obviously with us, you need to be very careful not to post any information or rumors that be false about the organization, Fargo Cass, employees, any of the people we work with, any of the vendors. Those are important, any contractors we work with. We really stress that, again, we're expressing only the personal opinions, and we're not representing anybody as the spokesperson for Fargo Cass or the organization. And this one is critically important for our community as well, is, be mindful that community members within the city come from all walks of life. They have different experiences, you all, than I do, and vice versa. And we need to be open and embracing of all opinions, of all cultures, of all experiences. So we're really cognizant and careful to really be avoiding slurs, or any discrimination among race, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other legally protected classifications. And even if they're not legally protected, we're really cognizant of it, because every person in this community matters, and we want them to be engaged in our work. So the last thing I will say is this collaboration with Fargo Cass works. And so when you look at these awards that were given, there's a reason this was at the end of the presentation, because we don't brag, but we want to share the success story. So with Fargo Cass Public Information Team, Holly and Justin and Desi, and our comms team, we produced all of the vaccination campaigns that you saw running in Eastern North Dakota. We had requests from Grand Forks to run our ads in Grand Forks. We had requests from Western North Dakota to run their ads in Western North Dakota. There was not a piece of the campaign that was outsourced. And nationally, that Vax Up campaign won 3 national awards for the services in videography. And those are the first awards that our comms team had won nationally for videography services. It's the first that there was one award, Fargo Cass. And it brings it back to that first statement that I said. We're not experts in healthcare, but you employ the experts in healthcare that work with us to put out a message that works. And we're very proud and we're very honored to work with you, and we look forward to working with you all in these roles, and we'll answer any questions you might have.
Questions from the board members for our comms team?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Preston?
So just one statement and then a question for you, Greg. I do think that, again, not to scare everybody up here, that you're going to immediately get requests from the media. Even through the throes of COVID, I don't believe the board members were ever contacted. However, it seems wise that if you are, it would be wise to funnel that through the chair, and she can coordinate then with the staff. So if you are contacted, perhaps, and I don't know, Madam Chair, if that needs to be kind of a policy statement or an agreed upon kind of action here, but I would suggest strongly that you refer them to our chair. The question I have, Greg, is you, I think, have fairly recently added government affairs. And I didn't see anything here in relationship to that. And since we're in the middle of a legislative session and we've got some really concerning bills going through, what is your role with government affairs?
I think that's a great question. So I think that vision of what governmental affairs and adding that wing and that division onto comms is that long-term goal. I will tell you that right now we are down 4 employees on comms that we're actively recruiting for. And so when that communications and governmental affairs got added, at this point, the governmental affairs portion is really the affairs of our government and local government and how we interact with each other to really unify those efforts. So it's not engineering speaking on behalf of engineering. It's not, one of the departments speaking on behalf. The goal is by the next time we have another session in 2 years, that there will be myself and probably at least one other person person trained in that effort so that we are that conduit to be bringing all those issues in. But right now, when we talk about governmental affairs, it's not the piece of lobbying, it's unification of efforts of 22 departments, as you know, Commissioner Preston, that are very strong and very independent to try to unify those into one unified approach.
Commissioner Preston, if I could just speak to the suggestion that you made about if members of the board might be contacted by members of the media to funnel that through the chair. Selfishly, that would be much appreciated from the PIO at the organization. And the reason I say that is because maybe a member of the media might contact you based on discussion that was, streamed during a board meeting, but maybe you're not the best person to speak to that. I don't say that in criticism of anyone, but maybe we have a staff person internally at FargoCast that might be better suited to speak to that particular topic. So I think having open communication and just the board members knowing that, to go to Lynn with, any type of those contacts and know that you can rely on me. If I'm not around, Justin does an equally wonderful job helping facilitate media interviews, but, we'd be here to support the board in any way we can.
And I can assure you that the first person I would reach out to would be Holly if there were any media requests. So I'm happy to funnel any media requests that were to come to the board, and I would obviously connect with Holly. Okay, any other questions for the comms team? Comments?
Sorry, I had one question. So how do we handle media requests in roles that aren't related to FargoCast Public Health? Dr. Nagpal during the COVID pandemic was often asked to speak for Sanford with things related to that. And in addition, how do we handle situations where we may be active in state legislative advocacy? There's certainly, I've provided testimony in some of the vaccine bills that I've submitted, not as a member of the Public Health Committee, but as a private citizen and a pediatrician.
That's a great question.
Can I take that one?
Yes. Thank you.
We obviously understand that you were chosen for the Board of Health because of your expertise and because of your employment. So we would just ask, to be cognizant when you do speak to others, that you're clear of what role that you're expressing yourself. That the question is this speaking on behalf of you as a Board of Health member or in your employment. It happens routinely on the 25 different boards and committees that we do have individuals that are experts in their field, and we want them to still be able to do that. So as long as you're not speaking as a member of the Board of Health, there's no concerns.
Do you normally have to say that up front? Or, I know with written communication, you could just say, your name and what you're doing. You don't put
that. Yeah, and that's fine. As long as when you list your whole history or where you're working, if you list on there that you are a member of the Board of Health, they would obviously assume you're speaking in that capacity as well. So we just asked you to be cognizant of the usage of that designation.
Madam Chair, if I could just add to that. I think the way we've handled it on the commission level, city commission level, is, and city commission is probably a little bit more visible, so people are going to perhaps know that you're a member of the city commission, but either way, the way we've approached it, at least at the city commission level, is I am a member of the city commission. However, I'm here as an individual representing my own self. So.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Comments? I would like to thank you for that overview. I've been on the board for 3.5 years, and I think that was a fantastic overview of what your teams do. Congratulations on the awards that you've won. And I would say that the visibility of the board FargoCast Public Health has increased significantly over the last few years due to the hard work that you guys have done. So our community is lucky to have you, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next order of business on our agenda is our health officer update from Dr. Newman.
Okay, hello, welcome. Make sure I have these. Welcome to all the new faces. Thanks for being here. And yeah, I could have given that in like 3 minutes. When in doubt, just call Holly or Michael because they do everything. And, oh, I'm on the wrong PowerPoint. You don't want to hear this again, do you? There's so many times that I send Holly things and she politely sends it back completely different. Always improved. So I think she did these logos here for us today. So there you go. Okay, so I think we're going to pivot for this portion of the meeting to more of what a Board of Health meeting will look and feel like for you guys. That was your introductory stuff. We're going to pivot to a little more public health topics. I typically provide a standing report for you of things that are going on in the community, and then happy to have discussion. This one's a little unique today because I primarily did it around vaccines. If you guys remember last spring, I presented to you some data from the state of North Dakota and our school vaccination rates, and there was a lot of interest and discussion about that, and I was asked to follow up, so that's what this is today. I'm going to start a little broad. There was some very recent national CDC MMWR, 2 of them published on our national immunization rates. So this is looking at the first one is looking at vaccination rates for children up to age 2, and it was survey data from the years 2019 to 2021. And you can kind of see that nationwide coverage remained high for most of our vaccines in those young children, which as a pediatrician, this was surprisingly good news to me. Nationally, more than 9 in 10 babies and young children are receiving recommended vaccines. And then we did not see the expected decline in routine vaccines associated with the pandemic, at least for this age group. However, disparities do still persist. So we still see declines in children living in rural areas and below the federal poverty level. So you can kind of see the statement here. The percentage of uninsured children not vaccinated by their 2nd birthday was 8 times that of privately insured as well. This was a second MMWR, again, nationwide data looking at kindergarten age vaccines. So this looked at selected vaccinations that are required for kindergarten, and it looked at exemption rates from the school year 2021 to 2022. And for reference, the year before that, the 2020-2021 school year, we saw a decline in children being up to date from 95% to 94%. That's important because if you'll recall, for many of these, we would like 95% or higher to have what we call herd immunity to prevent outbreaks. So that got a lot of attention. And then this past school year, we saw that rate drop again to 93% nationwide. And a little bit from that same study was about exemptions. So a quote I found interesting from here was, despite widespread return to in-person learning, COVID-19 related disruptions continue to affect vaccination coverage and assessment for this 2021-2022 school year, preventing a return to pre-pandemic coverage. So while we aren't seeing it in those younger infants and kids under 2, we do continue to see this in our school age demographic. Nationwide, the formal exemption rates remained low at 2.6%. However, there was this other group sort of not accounted for that was approaching 4% that didn't have exemptions, but they just weren't up to date, specifically when they looked at MMR. So it's probably much higher than what we're recording. And then I just wanted to point out that in our state, North Dakota, our non-medical, so moral, philosophical, or religious school exemption rate is now greater than 5%. That's the first time we've ever seen that. So I thought I'd shift just a little bit specifically in North Dakota. Thank you to Molly Howell and Danny Pinnick at the state. They were so kind to give me very preliminary data of this current school year. So this is data as of just 2 months ago in mid-December. So you can kind of see statewide, these are our kindergarten immunization rates. Again, that goal is 95%. So we're not reaching that for any of those at that age. In particular, MMR is at 92%. We've just had a measles outbreak in our neighboring state in Minnesota, so that got a lot of attention as well. These are the exemption rates, just faceted out. So you can see philosophical is now the highest, and probably the one most rapidly increasing, I would say, at 3.21%. There are still some religious exemptions that happen. Medical exemptions are very low. And again, this is just a visual that this was the first time we've seen that rate reach greater than 5%. And I think, to me, it looks rapidly increasing. So just to show you also our 7th grade rate, so a different cohort of kids. But interestingly, to me, is the dichotomy here. So when you look at I don't know how to get a pointer. Here we go. Like the younger ones that they would have done in their infancy or in kindergarten age, those still are quite good. But the ones that now we're asking them to do at the 11, 12-year visit, we've seen dramatic decreases. Similarly to our juniors and 11th grade rate, you know, their previous, before we saw so much vaccine hesitancy and vaccine refusal, are doing very well. But now we're talking about meningococcal rates below 90%. And then just one the slide that I pulled that I think is worth mentioning, we have quite the discrepancy in our state of school, even though it is state law, there are varying degrees of superintendents and schools that actually enforce these exemptions. And so when you compare actively excluding schools versus non-excluding schools for vaccines, you can see the discrepancy of our percentages there. So it really does matter when our school staff and our school districts hold people accountable to these rules. And then just a random brief influenza update. I usually try to do that. This was for data ending last week, so end of week 4. They'll update it today, but fortunately seasonal influenza activity has continued to decline nationwide, as have our hospitalizations. Of the viruses that they're typing and looking at, that we've seen 62% influenza A, B, H3N2, 38% B, H1N1. There were 6 new pediatric deaths as of last week for a total of 97 this season. And then just some stats for this season, we've had to date 25 million cases, 280,000 hospitalizations, and at least 17,000 deaths. Promisingly, it does still look that our vaccine this season was a good match to the strains that they're typing, and that our antivirals do still hold up and seem to work. So we do still encourage an influenza vaccine as long as we're seeing influenza activity circulating. North Dakota is in the low range here as of last week. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions or comments from board members? I did think of one question, Dr. Newman. Do we know how Cass County compares to the state with the vaccination compliance in the public schools?
I can pull that data.
I was just,
I don't want to anecdotally speak, but it typically is much better.
I would assume as well. I was just
I can present
curious.
that to you next time if you'd like.
Good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you, Dr. Newman.
Of course. Any other questions?
Any questions? Thank you for your health officer reports. They're very helpful.
Well, thank Holly, because she makes them look.
Okay, next item of business is Community Engagement Office update from Justin.
Yes. I learned it's the Community Engagement Unit. So I just learned that. I got corrected. So we're fortunate to have Chrissy Gerard. She's the Director of the Community Engagement for the North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services. The mission of the Community Engagement Unit is to understand and reduce health disparities among all North Dakotans. The primary goal is to work alongside North Dakota communities in addressing health-related needs, to reduce disease rates by providing opportunities for interventions, and improving access to healthcare. That's a mouthful. To ensure that all North Dakotans have the ability to reach their optimal health. I also have Katerina Dimitrovich. I was hoping I was going to get through that without stumbling on that. And don't ask me to spell it. So Katerina is also part of the unit, so I will let them take over.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Again, I'm Katerina Dimitrovich. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist with HHS. And I will just be Chrissy's advancer for her slideshow today, and obviously happy to answer any questions. I am based in Fargo. I just wanted to state that. However, I work closely with Chrissy and other members of our Community Engagement Unit to address all special populations across the state of North Dakota. So,
We can't hear you, Chrissy.
You can hear me?
Now we can. Yep.
Okay. I think I might be a little delayed and totally uncomfortable with my big head on your big screen over there. I can see myself. So I'm very excited for my PowerPoint to come up so I don't have to look at myself in this big format.
Alrighty, Chrissy, I'll just take.
All right, Kat, I'll let you know when to advance.
perfect.
So, all right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for taking me virtually here. It's a little hard to get out of the office during legislative sessions, so I appreciate you letting me join virtually. So again, my name is Chrissy Gerard, and I am the Community Engagement Director for the North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services. And I'm going to spend a little time today talking about the work of the unit and also kind of who we are, where we're at in the state. Justin kind of nicely covered our mission statement there, a little bit about our strategic plans, our boards, and what we do here in the Fargo area. And you're going to have to excuse me, this is the bad part of working from home, but my a little robot vacuum is beeping uncontrollably here. So 1 second. This is the joys of trying to work from home, right? You can advance to the next slide, Kat. So this is the mission of the unit, which Justin did a nice job saying. It is a mouthful. But basically, the point of this is that the unit's responsibility is really trying to achieve health equity for all North Dakotans. So I won't read this to you again since Justin did that nicely. Kat, you can advance to the next slide. So I did want to show the Public Health Division organizational chart for you really quickly, just to understand where the Community Engagement Unit lies. So as you know, we did merge with the Department of Human Services as of September 1 this year. And so basically the public health structure stayed the same in the Public Health Division. And the Community Engagement Unit is located under the Healthy and Safe Communities section. And I think the point of me really showing you this is we are embedded in a section, but we really do overarching work for the whole Public Health Division, and not just the Public Health Division, but all of the Department of Health and Human Services, including other areas outside of public health like behavioral health, aging services, disability. So we are very much so an overarching unit, but are placed into one section. So we also help other state agencies as well. We have had a lot of collaboration, for example, with the Department of Transportation, Commerce, Department of Emergency Quality. I mean, there's tons of them that have reached out for the expertise of the staff. Next slide, Kat. So this is what we look like, but I am actually going to start with a little history just so you kind of understand the unit and how it got to the place that it is. So the Community Engagement Unit was reestablished back in 2018 when I came back to the department and was hired as a part-time health equity director and a part-time maternal and child health coordinator, which is the main reason where the Community Engagement Unit sits within that Healthy, Safe Communities section, because my original part of my job was to do maternal and child health work, which we found really fast was going to morph quickly into all health equity work at the time. One of the things I did just say was reestablished. So there was some time when North Dakota at the state level didn't have any health equity program. Prior to 2018, it was 4 or 5 years prior to that, the North Dakota Department of Health at the time lost some Office of Minority Health funding and wasn't able to continue the health equity program that it had. And at that point, actually, it was only one person in the whole Office of Health Equity. And it was very much so just based off of tribal work instead of health equity as a whole, which this unit does do. So once I came back to the department in 2018, and it was, like I said, pretty apparent within a short time how much health equity work there was just within the department, and not only that, but the state. So I really did start looking at ways to expand the program, which really brings us to this very nice organizational chart that's in front of you right now. So I did want to take a little bit of time to explain the positions and what everybody does, where their primary expertise is in, because I think that'll help you understand everybody and where they're at. The first person next to me that you'll notice is Alicia Balai. Alicia is located in Fargo. She serves as our Community Engagement Assistant Director. Her primary focus of work is around maternal and child health, along with HIV and STDs. She is split funded between maternal and child health and disease control funding. So that is why her areas of expertise lie that way. She also serves as the assistant director and supervises all of our liaison positions, which I'll get to in a second. Next to the left, you'll see Sarah Upgren. She's our administrative assistant located here in Bismarck with me. She is basically the glue that keeps this team together, for a lack of better words. Next on the list is Jordan Lattiser. He is our community engagement training coordinator. His primary focus is around the LGBTQ2S plus population, along with HIV, STDs, harm reduction, and he really works within our disabilities and aging population as well. And just most recently, we've been transitioning him to take on more of a lead for our trainings for our unit. This position is also the state-appointed co-chair for our BU, or LGBTQ2S plus advisory board, and I will explain our advisory boards here in a little bit. Next, you'll see Katerina, who is sitting there pushing my slides forward. She is our community engagement specialist. One of the things that happened in the midst of COVID is that the state was awarded a $31 million COVID grant that was specific to health equity, and that was very large. So this is when we brought on Katerina to work with that grant and specifically with COVID. But since then, she's also taken lead with our youth population. She also serves as the state-appointed co-chair to our youth advisory board, and she also works leading our youth ambassador programs. Next is Roger Bryant. He serves as our immunization coordinator specific to the community engagement unit. He is fairly new to our unit. This position was filled prior. So Roger, I think, came on board in December here. But this position is funded through our immunization program, and it really serves as that bridge between our unit and the immunization unit, and making sure that all of our staff, because we're kind of boots on the ground, are the most up to date with all the vaccine information, working to do vaccine clinics to North Dakota's most vulnerable populations. Next, you'll see a vacant community liaison position. We had somebody in that position and they recently left. And so we are actually in the process of just hiring that right now, and we're doing the interviews. This person is really the one that specifically works with our new American, foreign-born, and immigrant population. This position really serves as kind of that trusted individual delivering like what important public health messaging we need at that time to the community, and also listening to the community needs and bringing that information back to the department so we know how to best serve that community. This position also serves as our state-appointed co-chair for our NFI advisory board. Next, you will see Ruth Nawatu. She is a CDC Public Health Associate, so she's what I call our free help. So CDC has a program for public health associates where they come to states and do 2-year stints with us. She is actually the third CDC PHAP we have had within this unit. Ruth will be done with us here in October. We're in the process of applying for a couple more of those right now. And then you will see our 4 tribal health liaisons. So these positions are similar to what the community liaison is specific to the NFI population. These 4 individuals are specific to our tribal populations here in North Dakota. Jamie works with Spirit Lake and Sisseton. Hunter is with Turtle Mountain. Sonia works primarily with MHA, and Cheyenne is over in Standing Rock. Not only do they work within our tribal reservation areas, but they also work with our urban American Indian populations and the community-based organizations that are in those urban areas. So in the Fargo area, Jamie and Hunter are key points there. They handle the eastern side of North Dakota, where Sonia and Cheyenne handle the western side of North Dakota. And then you'll notice this wonderful group of 5 individuals on the bottom. These are our NDSU staff or graduate assistants and undergrad assistants. And without the support of them and NDSU, I don't think our team would be where they are at today. So they're a lot of help for us. I'm going to take a drink of water while Katerina, you can go to the next slide. It's a mouthful without getting a drink here. So I did want to just give a little bit of background on what drives our work in this unit. And one of the things that was decided when we were still the Department of Health, but now as a Division of Public Health, the strategic map for public health decided to embed improving health equity underneath their mission as an overarching principle. And the reason that we did this was so the emphasis on health equity wasn't just put on the work of the community engagement unit, but really the entire division. So we're making sure that health equity is really incorporated into all of the work we do as a division. From this strategic plan, Kat, you can go to the next slide. There are 2 other strategic plans that this unit really works off of. The first one that you see here is our unit strategic plan. On the next slide, you'll see our COVID strategic plan that is specific to this unit. So I am not going to go into depth about these at all. They are huge documents, and if you have some leisurely reading time and you want to go through these, they are on our website. But basically, we have 2 different strategic plans that runs the work of this unit. The reason that they're in 2 separate plans is that the COVID-19 Special Populations Plan is really all of the grant-mandated COVID things that we had to do within the division. Meaning there is the immunization program grants, there are the epi lab capacity grants, there's the actual health equity COVID-19 grants, and every single one of them had a great deal of required activities around health equity. And it was easier for us knowing that this plan would at some point sunset to keep these plans separate and to make sure that we were able to reply back to our grant mandates that we have. So if you do look at this plan, it includes over 100 goals that are actually related to COVID-19 amongst our special populations here in North Dakota. The other one that was on the first slide really is a basic strategic planning document for our unit and just drives our work. Both of these plans are updated on a monthly basis. They're living, they're public, they're on our website. And like I said, you know, in your spare time, you could have some wonderful reading time. One of the things to mention though, is that, you know, 2018 to where we are right now, 2023, this unit grew very fast and it grew in the midst of COVID. And so one of the things that we're going to do starting this spring, our RFP actually closes next week, is that we are going through a very large strategic planning process to take the place of what this unit strategic plan looks like now. We need to actually just take a step back to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, especially since the integration with the Department of Human Services. So we want to make sure that we are doing what we need to be doing. The other part of that strategic planning process is going to include our Health Equity Committee. The Health Equity Committee is made up of both internal and external stakeholders, and it has had a really great mission and outcome and plan behind that board. And I want to make sure that it's looking more at a statewide approach. The right people are at the table at the right time, so we as a state can address health inequities a little bit better. So part of that strategic planning process that we're going to start this spring will also look at that board and what that board should be doing. So really, I mean, I think one of the messages is that this unit was really built amongst COVID, and we are still trying to find our way a little bit and our place within our communities and figuring out how to best serve them. Okay, Kat, you can go 2 ahead past the plans. I did make a mention earlier of our advisory boards. So we have 3 actual advisory boards. I'll talk about tribal health lastly, but the 3 advisory boards are the NFI, the BU, or the LGBTQ2S+, and our youth. These boards are really with us to serve to elevate the suggestions, needs, and ideas and provide ongoing recommendations to the department and actually other state and local agencies from the communities represented, and really to inform the development and improvement of programming for these specific populations. So NFI, L+, and youth. So I like to kind of call these bi-directional sharing because really they bring us a lot of information that we need to know about their communities, and we bring them a lot of information that we want their communities to know. They have helped us figure out how to best reach their communities. They have looked at different advertisements of ours, put in their perspectives of how that would best reach these communities. They have been an absolute asset, especially through this COVID response. And all 3 of these are fairly new. They were developed between 2020 and 2021. And again, that was kind of in the midst of COVID. So they're not just doing COVID work. We've also had other state agencies reach out and utilize these boards. If anybody wants to utilize these boards, there is a section on our website where people can just ask to be put on the agenda and get the input from these 3 boards. And then the 4th thing just to mention is that there is a tribal health concept that we've developed. This just started last year. So we're having quarterly meetings with our tribal health directors in the state of North Dakota. These meetings are actually led by the NDSU, American Indian Public Health Resource Center, and really the same concept of our other boards, but this one is closed. It's just department staff and the tribal health directors to really figure out how we can best serve our American Indian population on the reservations here in North Dakota. Next slide. And then just a few things in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And honestly, this is not an all-encompassing list of things that have happened in the Fargo area, but just to name a few of the things that we have done in this area. So lots of trainings and presentations have happened. For example, I know that Katerina and Jordan did provide a bias training. I think it was just last month or the month before. To Fargo Cass Public Health. And I know there's another training coming up, I believe, next month. So we have done a lot of trainings and presentations in that Fargo area. Katerina serves on the Fargo-Moorhead Wellness Coalition. We have had attendance at the Fargo-Moorhead Coalition to End Homelessness. We also have a contract with Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services, who subcontracts with Ashara. We've held a lot of vaccine events, town halls, and other community events. Recently, we've been working with Blue Cross Blue Shield about their social determinants of health study that they did. And we have been co-sponsoring that with them. And for the roundtable, that will be held in the Fargo area on the 22nd of this month. Okay, where are we at here? All right. And then we've provided a lot of education to the mosque as well. We have a contract with the New American Consortium. This grant is going to be doing Well Women Care. We've also had a previous collaboration with them that was for health education seminars to immigrant women. We've had some work with the Great Plains Food Bank. They've reached out to the team to provide a presentation to staff on the New American Foreign-Born and Immigrant needs in the community. We have also got a contract with the Indigenous Association there in Fargo, provided them a grant for vaccine support, COVID prevention, and also doing health fairs. The tribal health liaisons are also working with the association to hold a sewing event in April that will provide an immunization presentation there as well. We've contracted with Indigenous Legacy. This contract has really provided them the ability to more COVID related for supply kits, transportation to and from testing, vaccines, and COVID-related appointments. So those are just to name a few. I know that my team has done quite a bit in that area, but wanted to just give you a snapshot of some of the things that are happening in your area. And Kat, I think you can go to the next slide. And like I said, if you're interested in more information, our website is there. All of our strategic plans are there, resources, a whole gamut of different things. We do have a quarterly newsletter that we have that comes out in regards to equity, and a lot of information and resources are found in that too. So you can find all of that on our website if you are interested. And I will take a breath and see if anybody has any questions.
Questions or comments from the board? Naima?
Well, I think it's not a common. I mean, it's not a question, but I think that what you just present on is really well. It showed that the North Dakota Department of Health is taking responsibility by involving the whole community from different diverse backgrounds. So it showed that I'm glad that you guys are doing those work and continue to do so. Make sure that you just reach out to the right people, and then you'll get the right information for the health. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. It's helpful to know all of the work that's happening. Health equity is a really important issue, so I appreciate the information.
I also just want to mention, they have been wonderful partners in involving FargoCast with different events that they're doing as well, even if it's not programmatically something that fits with what we currently do. I've been able to attend a different listening sessions for mental health with the NFI population that was tremendously helpful, just to meet the people and shake some hands so they get to know who we are. And it's been wonderful. They've also done the bias training, as they mentioned, and they're working with us for some focus group things. So FargoCast is immensely grateful for the assistance of this unit.
Sounds like our community will benefit from it. Commissioner Preston?
Madam Chair, yeah, if I could just ask Justin a follow-up question. So when I look at those advisory boards, and as you're talking about the events that you've been involved in, what's the programmatic interface with this particular program with the local units?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, one of them is mental health that they've been able to focus on. So they were working, and I can't speak to it for state because I know this was with Dipshika was the one that was really running that was the mental health programs and peer trainings and things like that for those populations. So they're working within those bounds of, I believe, that grant that had it, and that was just something that we didn't have for local public health.
And I will say too, just to speak to Justin's point, we are very much so engaged with our local public health partners in Fargo and across the state. So they are a great partner to have. We also work quite closely with Brenton Nesmeyer and his group of field EPIs. We are starting to do a little bit more collaboration with them. So there's lots of boots on the ground to have a better coordinated response and to really understand who all our community partners and all of the communities that we have here in North Dakota.
Can I just add too, Lynn, I actually serve on that one of the BU board. So that's a nice liaison between FargoCast Public Health and being advisory on that board. They're doing really, really important work for our state. So
It'll be nice to see how those groups continue to evolve and possibly have more robust local, advisory boards as time goes on. Any other questions? I'd like to get to the legislative updates because I know you probably have a list. So thank you, Chrissy and Kat, for your presentation. That was really helpful.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, you too. The next order of business is legislative updates with Justin.
Okay, well, I know we got 6 minutes, so if I talk too fast, please tell me. So there's 131 current bills we're tracking. Some bills are within our programs, and again, some just fit into that public health sphere that we're in. So there's bills for, obviously, we've all seen some of the COVID vaccine bills, which are concerning. Some funding bills, tobacco, LGBTQS+, mental health bills. It's running the gamut. Actually, at 12:30, there were 4 bills on the House floor that were all dealing with vaccinations that I get to go back and check and hope and fingers crossed for, right? As far as testimony, we've had staff provide testimony on a few different bills. Aaron Johnson from Environmental Health, he provided in-person testimony on Senate Bill 2253 that was dealing with septic systems and sort of a rearrangement of that program, and a written testimony on 2256 because it seems like these bills never seem to run on the same day. They're always separate, make a stretch. So he did fantastic and spoke well and is actually on the work committee for that committee now as well. House Bill 1229 is the cigar bar bill. Annabelle has been, from our Health Promotion Division, she has been working in correspondence with some of our legislators. As you know, that made it through, so that one's a little bit of a concern for us as well. I would have her speak to it if she was here, because it's been lots of emails and lots of discussion around it, but that's a concern. And then SACHO, I'm not sure if everybody is aware, SACHO is the North Dakota Association of City and County Health Officials, so it covers all our local public health units. They've been really helpful because there are obviously health units that are right close to Bismarck, so they attend a lot of our meetings and we provide testimony as a group for local public health all in concert, which is nice. And we've done that on a few different ones. And of course, you know, we have great partners with the health systems, with NDSU, with UND. So we have great advocates for public health areas. And as far as monitoring what's happening, we have our staff that's taking part in a variety of groups, weekly monitoring calls. We're on a bunch of listservs. Family planning has a specific call. Larry Annenson, director of our clinic, manages that one. There's a mental health call that Melissa Markegard from Health Promotion is on. Kim and Annabelle, they're community health educators, and they're on the weekly NDPHA, the section committee for alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs call. We have the LGBTQS+ and tobacco-free ND listservs that we're monitoring. Desi handles the city legislative call. That's at 3 every Friday, and I take the SACHO call, and Suzanne Schaefer, our director of nursing, is also on that SACHO call. And then everybody kind of jumps on when they can. So it's really a group effort. I'm sure there are some bills that I don't have on my list, but it's legislative session is always full of excitement and cheers and jeers, right? So we make it through the best we can.
Any questions or comments for Justin on legislative updates? Anything you guys have been keeping your eyes on? Commissioner
Sorry,
Presley?
I've got lots of questions. So what's happening with the ban on vaccines? COVID vaccine.
Which bill?
The COVID vaccine.
Actually,
one,
mRNA,
sorry.
right?
The mRNA one. So that one got voted on yesterday in the Senate, and they've now amended it to become a study. So what they want it to be, and I don't know how they're going to accomplish it. Dr. Severson, please, or Dr. Nankla, I know that you guys are much more eloquent on this than I am, please.
My understanding is it passed in the House or the Senate. I couldn't remember.
Senate.
Okay. My understanding is the hope is that they'll be able to take it out of the legislative branch and put it within Health and Human Services to do the study. I don't know if that'll happen, but I know that's what Senator Lee from West Fargo had mentioned in her committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, testimony was, it went for a do not pass. It was a 6-0-0 vote. And once it got to the floor, the debate kind of turning into a study, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know we won't have another meeting until after the legislative session is over, right?
Yes.
May.
So, well, and we're going to look at the meeting schedule as well. But if you have any questions or if there's bills that you would like watched or whatever, I can give you my card afterwards, please. And Holly has her cards as well, so we can make sure that if you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us or enlighten us on things too, because I think that you guys have, everybody has different groups they kind of work within, so it's always helpful for us.
Thank you for keeping your eye on all of those. I know it's 131, not a short list to keep track of. The next order of business is the review of the 2023 meeting schedule. It is in your folder. You'll see the dates as today, February 10th, May 12th, August 11th, November 17th. Those are all Fridays with the meeting in the chambers starting at 12 p.m. I will entertain a motion to approve the 2023 meeting schedule.
I make a motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do I need to do a roll call vote for this one, Lori? Okay. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion carries and the schedule is approved. I don't see anyone in the room for public comment. I don't believe there's anyone online. Okay, so we'll let the record show that there were no public comments. Any other topics before we adjourn? Okay, the Board of Health meeting adjourned at 1:31 p.m.